This is a Geek Leader podcast, and I'm your host, John Rauda. This show is all about helping us grow as leaders, become better technologists, and improve our lives both at work and at home. I hope you enjoy the show and learn a lot. Welcome to a Geek Leader podcast. I'm your host, John Rauda. And if you could, please do me a favor and take a moment and leave a rating and review in whatever podcast player you're listening to this on, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, doesn't matter. I would greatly appreciate it. And that feedback really helps get other listeners to the show. Also, if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And if you feel so inclined, you can go to geekleader.com/tip and donate to the show. Thanks so much. All right, Geek Leader, today I'm honored to have Craig Taylor on the show. He is the co-founder, CEO at CyberHoot, and they are a learning management platform for cybersecurity awareness. And he also does some things with vCISOs, which we'll talk about today as well. Anyway, with all that being said, Craig, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, John. It's good to be here.
If you don't mind, just tell the audience how you got into technology and cybersecurity specifically, and how that evolved your career over to CyberHoot.
Wow. The shortest version is I have a psychology degree. 30 plus years ago, I graduated and I had the decision to make. Do I want to go and get a PhD? I didn't think that was wise at the time. I was kind of burned out from university. This was up in Canada. And so I had to get a job, and I spent a little time doing different things. And then suddenly I saw a job offer on a net news feed, which is the original precursor to like Facebook Marketplace or some of these other places where you can find jobs. Even Craigslist didn't exist back then. This is well before the internet as we all knew it existed back in 1994, 5 or 6, something like that. So I went to work for a firewall vendor, and I had to look up what that was. It was a cybersecurity vendor who produced this box that sat between your internet connection and your business. And you had to convince people in those days they needed one. They were like, wow, the internet's this beautiful thing, and why would I need a firewall to plug in? So I spent the last 30 years, I got my CISSP in 2001. So I'm in under 25,000 on the number scores. Wow. For certificates. I think there's over 1 million now. And I've been doing this longer than I care to admit, John. I've spent time at many multinational companies like Computer Sciences Corp and some others, JP Morgan Chase, Vistaprint, and then some small MSPs, managed service providers, one in Minnesota, one here in Hampton, New Hampshire. And all along the way, my psychology degree has been telling me, here's what you got to tell people. Here's how you can convince them to do this and do that. Because it's a lot of psych when it comes to getting people to improve their cybersecurity. You got to make them think it's their idea sometimes when you're dealing with, powerful individuals at companies, that sort of thing. But in 2014, I was fired by one of those companies, and I did a lot of soul searching for a period of about 3 to 4 months, and had a conversation with some friends that I had worked with at Computer Sciences Corp. And they weren't out of employment, but they were thinking there was a rift coming at their company. And what were we all going to do? And we said, well, what if we try to do something a little different, founded our own company? What if we pivot here and build a cyber literacy program based on psychology, right? The industry, as we've all experienced it, is really hyper-focused on pain and punishment and shaming people who click on links, with the standard gotcha phishing emails. I'm sure you've received them. I'm sure the people in your listening to your podcast are sending them out. And there's this really tiny sweet spot where you do that, where it's not too hard, it's not too easy, and people learn something. But it really is first and foremost a measurement of what people already know. It's not really an educational process where people learn how to fish. Mm-hmm. And so we were thinking about this, and we got together, we said, I think we can do it better. And that was the birth of CyberHoot. 2026, 12 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you use more psychology than just the carrot and stick kind of approach, or
that very phrase is psychology at its best, right? Carrot and stick. The carrot is if you can use positive reinforcement to teach people phishing, they don't mind learning. We send a phishing simulation that isn't based on deception. In fact, today we're filing the final patent application that should be approved by the patent office. All the a priori art of our patent application focused on the deceptive gotcha phishing emails that are in the inbox, testing people whether they click or don't click. That is alienating. That is debilitating, I would say, but at its best, it measures what people know, but only for users that open the email. There's 40, 50, 60% of your users at any one time won't even open the email. So there's no measurement, there's no training, period, end of story. The patent office is looking at what we do in the browser as an educational interactive session that teaches people to identify these indicators, right? The sender, the subject, the greeting, language quality, urgency and emotionality, links and attachments. Those 7 things, if you could teach people how to identify indicators of an attack in those 7 components of an email, and then practice quickly over time, you create a body of users who know phishing. They know how to fish, right? That old, you remember in the old, I think it's a biblical phrase, feed a man a fish, feed a person a fish, feed him for today, right?
Yeah.
But teach them how to fish, feed them for a lifetime. Well, that's exactly what we're doing, and we've set out to do, and what we're hopefully going to finish our patent on is teaching people what they need to know instead of measuring what they don't know. And it's that simple, all based on positive reinforcement. Now, we've extended that in our company to include other avenues, other psychological principles to improve engagement, a little friendly competition through gamification, certificates of completion for, everybody in many fields of study have an ongoing educational requirement each year. They have to do 10 hours of training for this or that. Cybersecurity fits into most of those models. If you're a lawyer, a doctor, a electrician, it doesn't matter. Cybersecurity training can be part of that. So we give 15 minutes per exercise, all sorts of really nice little things that encourage engagement, participation. And then what we noticed is that without tricking people or deceiving them, we're not eroding their trust in their IT teams or their MSP or their MSSP. Too often you hear, and you can search Reddit for these threads, right? People are like, am I an idiot? Why was I fired for clicking on my second phishing email that's deception based? Or I'm so mad. Why would they tell us there's a dress code change as a fake email phishing test? I'm so mad. They promised me Christmas bonus money in the phishing attack. I can't believe they have that kind of I want to quit, right? People are really, really burned and upset about these things. And the justification that everybody throws out is, well, that's what hackers are doing, right, John? If we don't train you the way hackers attack us, then you're going to click. But the reality is there are 5 or 6 fundamentally huge flaws in this approach, right? I don't know if it's a technical podcast, but when you send those emails to the inboxes, you cannot typo squat the domain name to make it realistic. You have to use this really dumbed down domain name. So if you get an email that looks like it's from Microsoft, it says it's from Microsoft, it wants you to reset your MFA or set up your MFA, the domain name that sends it isn't rnmicrosoft.com, because that would be taken down immediately by the authorities. They would sue you as a vendor for impersonating Microsoft. So you have to use a domain name like accountresetsorus.com.
Yeah.
And it's teaching the very wrong principles. It's dumbing it down so far that a study in 2000 said people click more, not less, when they get that kind of fake domain names, because they're being trained to look for obviously wrong things, which hackers know and don't do. The best hackers I see add an S at the end of the domain name. And then they insert themselves into the wiring instructions, and $100,000, $200,000, $1 million goes wired off to the wrong place. That's true typo squatting at its finest. And we're not teaching that. We're not teaching the right skills. We're teaching this bastardization of what needs to be taught. And people are just being tested for what they know. So yeah, we founded CyberHoot on the principle of positive reinforcement, a psychological phenomenon that I studied in school, operant conditioning. And that's, 75 years of psychology has said rewarded behaviors are repeated. In other words, people change.
Hmm.
When you punish behaviors, they aren't extinguished. They're just avoided in the context of, will I be punished? I don't think so. I'm going to click anyways. This is too important. I might win you know, a new Rolex watch in this email or something.
Yeah, and sometimes like I heard a story, and actually somebody on the show a while back. I can't remember who at the time right now, but they had a story where they did a phishing email that they sent out, and they had trained people that if it's somebody internal, pick up the phone and call them. And they did this phishing email to simulate HR making a policy change, and then HR was flooded with calls from people and was
Oh, yeah.
furious.
They're so happy with IT at that moment, right?
Yes.
But all honesty, that's probably the best outcome of any phishing campaign I've ever heard. Like that's the best you can get is pissing off your HR department because you've impersonated them, right? So if that's the best, and here's the thing, in these campaigns, they're called phishing campaigns. You send them out, they have this stupefied or dumbed down domain name. They're impersonating vendors that may or may not pertain to what you're doing in your company. You only get metrics for whoever opens the email. And the most targeted population of users is the senior leadership of companies. They, time and time again, they're the worst at opening emails and looking at emails. In fact, they often pay their secretaries and their assistants to view and scan their email. They're adopting AI to go through email now to not just summarize all the emails I have to do something about. And they're not being trained in it or measured in any way, right? So you might get 30, 40, 50% gap in what anyone did for a campaign that only measures what they know, not teaching them what they need to know. And then
Right.
on the flip side of those campaigns, John, is what happens when people actually open it and fail. Those are the targets. Those are the people we need to identify. Well, there's another study from last year's Black Hat that said the people that fail get assigned a video and they spend 10 seconds on average watching the training video that's supposed to teach them how to not make the mistake again. But when you've been punished and you failed something that is based on trickery and deception, your mind is not in an open, I'm not in a frame of mind where I'm about to really pay attention to a video that lasts 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And so you're just missing the boat on the psychology of how behaviors change when you focus on deception. Yes, there's an argument to be made that we need to measure people. I agree. But the way I think about it, and for your MSPs and your vCISOs out there or CISOs listening to this, is think of the fake email deception-based phishing test as a final exam, right? You want to teach a semester long or a year long class on how phishing works, have people practice it with we call it hootfish, this patent pending approach that we do, walks them through the center and the subject and the greeting and has an open book explanation for what to identify as an attack vector. That's the training people like. They like to participate, climb the leaderboard, see where they rank against their friends, maybe even compete with their own team internally. And then at the end of the year, run a fake email phishing test as a final exam. Let people know we're going to test you eventually. Be on the lookout so they're held accountable for learning this stuff. And then measure them once a year with an attack phishing campaign. You're not going to burn through the goodwill. And if you involve HR enough, you might say, hey, this is an HR campaign, staff up for this time frame, this week that we're going to be sending them out. And it's a necessary thing. You're going to be our partners in this. We need your help. Here's what you do. Here's the script. Oh, great job reporting this. No problem. It's one of our own. Thank you. Keep doing the great job. Great work. We'll put this in your file. We'll give you special credit on your performance appraisal. Whatever you got to do to make it a positive experience for people as they
So,
report these things in.
so talking about, going with the rewarding and positive kind of behavior, do you think you should offer like rewards like gift cards or, something like that for successfully passing that final exam? Or or for completing parts of the training and things like that, or just
Yes and no. Be careful
Mhm.
what you wish for. As a CISO now, taking a step out of the training role and as a CISO, there are unintended consequences for everything, right? You have to look
Yep.
at the flip side of the equation. And if, for example, there are companies that the only secondary metric they can measure in these phishing campaigns, if it, outside of who clicked on the and made a mistake, is reporting the phishing campaign. And so we see time and again individuals who try to game the system and report dozens of emails. Even if it's not a phishing email, they're like report, 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 because they get credit for everyone that they report. And the unintended consequences is the IT team gets inundated with these emails, some of which are real phishing attempts, some are not. And it's gaming the system to get to that point where they get a gift card for reporting 25 phishing emails or whatever it is. You have to be careful that you don't create unintended consequences. What is far better is to do a random draw once a quarter for anyone that's 100% on their assignments, whether it's doing the videos or the hoot fish, which is what we do because we're not deceiving people. We're sending them phishing simulations they have to walk through, and give it to the highest performers or the ones that are 100% compliant or that sort of thing. Don't make it a pay for performance kind of thing that incentivizes the wrong behaviors of reporting any and all fish. So in the right circumstances, yes, you can use those things to recognize teams that do well. Oh, we're going to do a pizza lunch for the finance team because everyone there is 100% on their assignments, whether it's a video or a hoot fish, and they're reporting phishing emails once in a blue moon. That's fine too. So yeah, used properly, it can work, and it is a good incentive. But ultimately, you want when you eliminate the deception based in your cybersecurity program, you create a culture, and this is really key to this whole thing, where it's okay to say something and be wrong, where it's okay to report a phishing email that was a mistake. But you're doing your assignments, you're learning how to fish. It's okay to be wrong because if you see something, say something. You want a culture that rewards that because the worst culture that you can create is one where people are afraid to make mistakes because when they do, they keep silent, right?
Yep.
Hopefully, no one saw that I clicked on this email and my computer popped up all these windows. All I did was I unplugged the computer and I rebooted, right? There's no harm now. I'm fine, right? Well, probably not. You should tell somebody.
Yeah, no, I think that's great because I think as society we tend to lead by fear more than we should. Because I think fear is the absolute wrong way to try to lead somebody. And I love the fact you're talking about getting rid of that deception because that's always like the one thing that people hate the most. I think is the deception base. So getting rid of that is very helpful.
Mhm.
How has AI changed the way training it needs to be done and the importance of training today?
So you hear a lot on different forums and different parts of the internet. People are really upset with AI slop, right? And we've all I've gotten an email the other day where it had the actual instruction to ChatGPT in the email with the answer, right? Here's what the email should read. Great job asking this question at the top of the email. And I knew it was complete cut and paste from the ChatGPT prompt, right? I don't mind that so much. People make mistakes, and I actually appreciate when people want to say, "Okay, here's the 75 words I want to write into this email or 3 paragraphs. Give me one paragraph that summarizes this exactly the way I want to have it." I appreciate having succinct 40
Mhm.
word, here's what you need to know. I think there's a good use of it, but a lot of people are complaining about AI slop. And we've been using AI in our platform for going on 2.5, 3 years for video production, for Q&A review to make sure that our questions are accurate to the video and to the script and to the content. It's been hugely empowering for us as a company to leverage AI to produce videos that are novel, short, and appealing to the audience. We have a 90% positive thumbs up rating on our videos on average for all time. And I'm going back 2 years ago when we had six fingered, humans We had buses rolling down the street without the wheels turning. There was a lot of artifacts in the beginning. The videos we produce now are almost Hollywood-esque. They're really, really good. And people that see the videos, maybe the advanced users of AI can pull out or tease out that it's an AI video, but the vast majority of people are like, I like that video. That really summarized what I needed to know about password hygiene or social engineering attacks or USB stick security, whatever it might be. But what it's done is it's allowed us to quickly put a video together on an emerging threat. We had a spate a year ago, and you probably had the same text message, the SMS that said your toll violation is
Yeah.
going to charge your credit card because you have not paid this, and click here to pay. We did a video in a matter of a week of that being everywhere online, everybody asking the same question, and we put it out to our customers so that they would be prepared for that eventual, toll violation smishing text. And so we've been able to really meet the needs on the internet timescales that are out there from AI's use as a company. Now, there's a dark side as well, right? This is the
Always.
positive. Everybody, all you business owners out there listening to this, your CISOs, there is a positive side, right? I could take an MSA agreement, a privacy policy for Fireflies or Otter or any of those, AI digital assistants and ask, is this okay to use, or are they gonna consume my data? And I can get answers really good. So there's a lot of positives out there, right? Legal agreements you can review, all that good stuff. Now on the dark side, I am seeing and I am receiving spear phishing attacks based on my public profile, right? You can search the internet for Craig. I've been on a few podcasts. I have my profiles on my CyberHoot page, and I'm getting really good phishing attacks that are dedicated to me to try to exploit me. Now, for all of you out there trying to hack me, I write this stuff for a living. So if you want to be an urgent email to my inbox, it's going to be the first thing I delete. But for a lot of people out there, they're getting more sophisticated phishing attacks more frequently with way worse consequences than ever before. In the old days, a ransomware attack encrypted your data, and if you had good backups, you could recover from it. I'm talking a decade ago. Now, they don't just encrypt your data, they delete your backups, they exfiltrate your data so they can ransom you that way. And if you still, have answers to all of that, you don't have that much data on your internal network, and you have your backups and you can recover very easily, and you don't want to pay the ransom, they'll report the breach to the authorities and get you fined by whatever industry you're in, right? Like, and if that doesn't work, somewhere on your internal network, they found your HR roles, and they'll start calling employees and telling them, I know where you live. Tell your boss to pay the ransom, or we're going to
Wow.
cause you some harm. So there's 4 or 5 different extortion attempts that are happening now. It's a really, really bad place. And the need for a very robust human in the loop, a well-trained human firewall has never been more important than it is today, because of these very, very persistent. And what AI has done is said, oh, I can write one email a day as a hacker that is really targeted. But AI said, well, we can multiply that by 1,000,000 or 1,000 or 10,000, right? I can get the HR contact roles from the dark web for this company or that company. I can ingest it. I can find their social media profiles, and I can spit out some really appealing. I know that you like golden retrievers. I'm going to put an email about that. I know that you like mountain biking. I'm going to put an email about that. And it's so attractive to the individuals, right? So it's really, and yeah, there's a whole nother avenue that we didn't talk about with regards to vulnerability identification that is just now. We're in the calm before a massive storm that's going to come for a period of 2 years, John. When you think about M-Dash and Mythos, Claude Mythos, and the ability for these AI-powered vulnerability identification tools to point at any software package on the internet and find dozens of 0 days that no software or no human can find. Do you remember 20 years ago, John, when Kasparov played IBM's Deep Blue and lost 2 out of 3 matches?
Yep, I do.
He won the first match, he lost the second match, and before the third match, he goes, I'm not going to be able to beat this because it's learning from their first 2 games and it's now better than me and I can't beat it. We've lost the ability to beat computers in chess, right? Well, humans have lost the battle with finding vulnerabilities in software because AI is so much better at it. And Mythos was so dangerous that when they first realized what they had on their hands, Anthropic said, we can't release this to the world. We got to form a coalition called the Glasswing Coalition. Give it to the top 40 or 50 vendors of the world to scan their code, find the 0 days that no human's been ever able to find, fix them before we release it. Because if we release it, the hackers are going to get them and they're going to break into every business in the world. And the banks went crazy. They had weekend meetings. They had, we got to get into this Glasswing coalition. What's happened as of this week is that they said, okay, the 40 or 50, they've been doing their things. They found their vulnerabilities. We're going to expand it to another 100. And we're going to include all of the public utility companies, in the banks and these major infrastructure that are foundational to the United States and let them scan their code and fix it. It's going to take a little bit longer. And then maybe down the road, we'll release it to the public. But we're in this calm period right now, John, where our adversaries like North Korea, Iran, and organized crime and hacker entities and organizations haven't quite, there's been some minor cases where they've broken in and stole it for a moment, but then it's been recovered in terms of access to these tools like MDash and Mythos. Once they get access, we're going to have a lot of the million other vendors that are not part of any of these coalitions, and they're going to be breached. We're going to have this window of 2 years of heavy patching, heavy breaches, and then we're going to get to this magical stage of software development where every piece of code released is scanned by these tools before it's released. And we have this 0 day free or 0 defect from a vulnerability perspective software nirvana. And that'll be calm forever future, according to some of the experts that I'm listening to and reading about. And then what happens then? Well, the human element becomes the only way in again. And you're back to humans have to be well trained and taught how to avoid phishing and social engineering attacks.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely. I agree with you. I think we are the calm before the storm. It's going to get a lot worse. um,
Before it gets better, but it will get better. Let's everybody remember it will get better. So don't give up on this stuff.
Yeah, 100%. So there's another thing that your business does, and that's kind of with virtual CISOs. Can you talk a little bit about that and kind of how that's evolved and what that service means to our listeners?
Yeah, so in the mid-market and smaller companies of the world, if they go looking for a CISO, they can't afford one, not a good one, but even if they could, it's a man or a woman on by themselves. And it is so hard to be a lone wolf in the world today and solve all the cybersecurity questions. So what does that mean? Well, if you don't need a full-time CISO, what's better than that? A cheaper part-time CISO. And we're talking, anywhere from 3 hours a month in the smallest sort of vCISO light. We have a company that knows nothing about cyber and has nothing in place. Let's start with 3 hours to get something started. We know exactly what they need to start. They need to train their employees. They need to govern their employees. They need a risk assessment to identify what's the most critical things, figure out what to do first, second, third, and simplify. To as much as 20 hours a month, right? But 20 hours is a lot less than 160. So if you're talking about a seasoned CISO that you want to hire for your company, somebody with 10, 15 years experience, you're looking at 250,000 in many regions of the world per year. If you're charged $300 an hour and you're paying 20 hours a month, 6,000 times what? 12 months?
12, yeah, so 72.
Yeah. 86, 72,000 a year. And that person is part of a team of CISOs, right? I founded a peer group of CISOs a lot of years ago, 8 years ago, just because I was talking to businesses who had a part-time CISO who was trying to find a learning management system that they were talking to CyberHoot. And I was like, okay, you sound like a pretty intelligent CISO. How would you like to participate in a peer group where we meet once a month and we bounce ideas off each other? If you have a problem, you need a policy on AI security best practices, you can ask the group and somebody's going to have one, and often you're going to get 2 or 3 options and take the best and put it into your role there. And so I've been able to accumulate, well, I haven't accumulated, it's been 25 people have said yes to that conversation and joined us. Maybe 1 month we might have 8 to 10 people, but we're all in this together instead of lone wolves, like one person working for a company trying to figure everything out on themselves. They can bounce ideas off and learn. Oh my God, I had that same exact situation where I had to implement, let's talk about AI again for a moment, and vulnerability management. If you go to cyberhoot.com/blog, search for Mythos, and you'll find an article I wrote, 2 articles I've written. One is, what should we be doing as vCISOs to help our clients prepare for the storm that's coming, right? Because there's going to be a lot more breaches, and vendors are going to be finding many more vulnerabilities, and they're going to be releasing them. And then what we've also noticed is that the moment someone releases a patch for a 0-day, hackers exploit that on the same day now, not a month from now. We used to write policies that say, hey, we're going to apply every critical patch, like really critical 0-day patch, if there's exploit in the wild kind of evidence, within 4 or 5 days, 4 days, business days, right? That's got to be same day now. So as a virtual CISO, we went and I produced this article that said, hey, you've got to patch same day. You've got to turn on automated patching, because even if you cause an outage now, an outage is way better than a breach, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because they are reverse engineering with AI. They got new AI tools that say, take the patch, figure out what they fixed, and exploit it. Boom. 15 minutes later, they've got an exploit. An hour later, 2 hours later. Now, the token costs are high, but it's so valuable to have a 0-day before the patch has been applied that hacking organizations, nation states, will pay any cost to get those 0 days to breach the companies and the networks and the things they want to get into. So we've got to shrink that window to 0 and apply it immediately. We got to remove the attack surface that is facing the internet. So if you have an SSL VPN and an IPsec VPN and a third-party VPN, get rid of them all except for the third party and the cloud one, because they're going to be patching immediately. And then if you don't have an internal honeypot, put one in. If you haven't removed 25 of the 28 years you've been in business of client records on your internal network, get rid of those things. You don't want to. I've been on a forensic investigation for a company. I won't say anything more than that. They had 25 years of files. They were exfiltrated, and they had to contact 25 years of clients. They didn't even know where half of their clients were at anymore, right? But they had an legal obligation to go notify. If they had just taken 23 of those 25 years offline and put it somewhere else, that breach would have had 2 years of damage, right? And it would have been a totally different story for how to recover from the breach. So get rid of your data, people. You're sitting on way too many years of stuff. It's going to cause a problem.
Yeah. That's why having a good retention policy that you actually follow is important.
And
Yeah,
and that
sure.
was there's a pivot to the peer group. I asked the peer group, I said, listen, I need to push our vCISOs at CyberHoot to take these steps against this new risk we're facing with 0-day vulnerability identification and discovery. And I want to get a retention policy that includes the critical retention policies to our clients so that they know to reduce the overall uh, amount of data on their internal network. But what's interesting is that there are a lot of legislative requirements that say you can't delete any, you know, in the criminal justice system, any of those legal files. You can't delete HIPAA data. You can't delete certain things. There's different time frames. And then there's differences between states and countries. And so, starting from this point, you have the policy on data retention, and then you have an addendum that basically times out all the different kinds of data that you have. So they're not tied to one another because they also change over time. So, but a vCISO provided me with that on our peer group, and I was able to go through it and say, all right, this looks good. Let's use this for the clients.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think that's
it's great to have that group of people that you can bounce ideas off of, learn from each other, and everybody's there to benefit and grow the group as a whole, not as an individual, which is fantastic.
Yep.
Greg, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate you going into depth with some of the changes and some of the things that are out there and how to use psychology and the positive feedback as a way to help learn your cybersecurity awareness training. How can people learn more about the things that you guys offer over at CyberHoot and connect with you,
Sure.
in the future?
CyberHoot.com is the website. You can book a meeting for a demo of our platform. If you need vCISO, there's a page for that. But I would also say if you want to email us asking for questions, sales at cyberhoot.com. And we like to give and recognize the opportunities that we have to be on a podcast like yours. So if you do end up signing up with a referral code of a Geek Leader, which is this podcast, we'll give you 20% off the first year of your subscription services to CyberHoot. So that's 20% off for a Geek Leader. All you have to do is when you sign up, after a demo, there's a section, where did you hear about us? Put in a Geek Leader, and we'll give you that 20% off automatically.
Awesome. I'll put that too in the show notes at geekleader.com so people can go there and click through. Again, Craig, thanks so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks, John.
Hope you enjoyed the show. Please go to geekleader.com to learn more about what this guest is up to, click on their links, and connect with them online. I would also greatly appreciate it if you could leave me a rating and review in Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to the show. Make sure you've subscribed if you haven't already. And if you feel so inclined, you can leave me a tip by going to geekleader.com/tip.